You know, Rob, I don't know if you knew this, but when the Joker was coming out, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix repeated ad nauseum one-shot movie.
Yes, they did.
Well, now, it was two separate things. It's a standalone movie. It is outside of the DCEU. Great. But they're also said one shot, one time only, one time only. I even remember them being on like the Cinematical podcast. I keep saying Cinematical, a Cinema Blend podcast. Cinematical is one of the OG movie websites that is unfortunately no longer around today. But, and them swearing, yep, this is one shot, one time deal only, one time deal only. And then the opening weekend happened. And it made nearly $100 million. And then it crossed worldwide the $300 million mark. And then it crossed the $500 million mark. And then it crossed the $800 million mark. And then just recently, by the scraping of its nails, it crawled over that $1 billion mark. And I think all of us, including me, who's the most ardent, don't make another one. Don't make another one. Even I started to go, they're going to make another one.
Yeah.
I don't want them to. It's a bad idea, I think. But they're going to make another one. Well, apparently, if you listen to the Hollywood Reporter, it's now official. They're doing another one. The Hollywood Reporter has broken the story that they have decided they're going to make another one. Todd Phillips is going to make another one. They're moving ahead with it. With the language they're using, it is likely that Joaquin Phoenix is going to be returning. You're not going to do another one if Joaquin isn't coming back. I mean, let's just face that. They're not going to do another one if Joaquin isn't coming back. So clearly, he's going to be coming back. It recounts the stories, and you guys can go and read the article in the Hollywood Reporter about Todd Phillips went to them. He actually wanted to do, apparently, according to the report, he went to WB after Joker opened huge with this idea of like all these origin stories he wanted to do, to which Warner Brothers pushed back. But apparently he at least walked out with Joker 2, and according to the report, one other character they might let him take a crack at. Now, the speculation right now is that might be a Lex Luthor, is kind of what they're speculating at, and all that kind of stuff. The big thing, though, here is that it does look like it's a done deal. Joker 2 is coming. And it has not changed my mind that I believe this is a bad idea. I just believe this is a bad idea. And I've articulated before why I think it's a bad idea. Now, the Hollywood Reporter, the article also goes on to point out that this, contrary to some popular beliefs, this is not going to have Batman in it. The Hollywood Reporter article is going to say Todd Phillips isn't going to be touching Batman moving forward and all this kind of stuff. So that's good. But to me, I always kind of felt like the movie you set up and that you did with this one-shot Joker, once you move past the events at the end of this movie, it's just going to be another comic book movie now. There's nowhere to go now other than just making it another comic book movie. And I love my comic book movies, but there's something so special about Joker that I just kind of want it to stand on its own. Now, hey, at least it's still separate from the DCEU, so I'm still very happy for that. That's great. That's the most important thing to me, that they're keeping it separate from the DCU, and that's great. I just don't think it's a great idea, Rob, for them to move into doing a sequel on this. But as we said before, when we were conceding, yeah, they're probably going to do it. I get it. A movie makes $1 billion on a $60-ish million budget, and it makes $1 billion. I get it. I do. I can't question the wisdom of that. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You kind of have to. And I concede that point. I do. It doesn't mean I have to feel good about it, though. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about this report coming out of the Hollywood Reporter. What are you thinking?
Well, first of all, Warner Brothers, I worked there a long time ago.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers had a long association with filmmakers. Clint Eastwood's been there for the better part of 4 decades.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the studio forges relationships with filmmakers that deliver makes sense to me. Now, even Todd Phillips, the Hangover movies, I know we were talking earlier, I love the first Hangover. The other ones are not so great. But Warner Brothers has a relationship with Todd Phillips. The fact that he delivered, it makes sense to me that they would make this announcement, make this deal. I would assume that Todd Phillips already had an idea for a Joker sequel, even though they said it was a one-off. How can you not? Whenever you're working in the comic book space, you can't not have a sequel idea in the back of your mind. So I bet he has an idea that's actually pretty decent. Now, I don't necessarily think the idea of like, oh, well, let's just give him all the DC villains and that's all he's going to do for the rest of his life. I don't necessarily think that's the smartest idea. But if he already had an idea for a villain, whether it's Lex Luthor or whether it's, whomever, Captain Boomerang or Killer Croc, I don't know. I'm sure that I'm sure this is not something that they just are throwing against the wall. I think this is something that's been considered. I think this is something they probably talked about beforehand. And at least I'd like to believe that we might get something special out of it. So it's not surprising it happened. I just hope it results in more great films.
There's something I should point out here too, is that the Hollywood Reporter is not the only one talking about this story. And by the way, remember, the Hollywood Reporter is not Cosmic Book News. The Hollywood Reporter is not Billy the Plumber's movie blog of the day.net. It's the Hollywood Reporter. They have built decades of relationships with people. They know the insiders, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean they're 100% right 100% of the time, but usually you can take it to the bank. However, another reputable outlet is Deadline. Again,
Yes.
a very reputable one. Deadline saying that this story isn't true. Deadline
Wow.
right now is coming out and saying, don't dress for the Joker sequel just yet, insiders. Their insiders, clearly not the same insiders talking to the Hollywood Reporter, say Todd Phillips never pitched an origin film series on other DC characters. What their article is saying right now is this: the Joker sequel news that hit a trade today, a trade is their competition, the Hollywood Reporter, is great clickbait. That seems that's kind of a Bush League thing for them to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to call Deadline out on that. You're being a little bitch by putting it like that.
And this is by Mike Fleming,
Yeah.
who's a very
So,
well-respected
Dear Mike Fleming,
writer.
you're being a little bitch by writing it like that. Just say we're hearing contradictory information. This is Bush League by this guy to write it like that. But at whatever rate. The Joker sequel news hit a trade today is great clickbait, but multiple inside sources, of course these are his sources because the Hollywood Reporter is also saying they have inside sources, said that while the sequel to the billion-dollar grossing film is an obvious likely eventuality that makes all the financial sense in the world, at this point there are no deals for a sequel, nor even any negotiations with director Todd Phillips or his co-writer Scott Silver to craft one. So here we have a scenario where we have two really good trades, although unfortunately Mike Fleming is writing like a little bitch. I don't know why he would act so unprofessionally like that and write something like, just say, hey, we're getting different information. Why not say this? This is really, I'm getting off on a side note, but to me this discredits Deadline. I'm not saying it discredits the story, but it makes me look at Deadline in a little bit of a lesser light. I mean, you're both major trades, have a little bit of professional respect. Anyway, just say I'm hearing different information. At any rate, we have Hollywood Reporter saying we do have our sources close to the inside Warner Brothers that have said this. Okay, Deadline is clearly hearing something completely different. Although they even acknowledge that it's an eventuality and an inevitability, something we all had to admit, it's an inevitability that Joker 2 is going to get made. So that's there. I tend to believe. Here's the thing. One of the things I have learned, Rob, even by running I've run some companies that have like 20 people in it, right? Which is tiny. But quite often within an organization that I was running that had like 20, 21, 22 people, certain people would know certain things and other people may not be privy to that information. So it could be very well true, because I don't doubt Deadline and I don't doubt the Hollywood Reporter. It could very well be true that Hollywood Reporter does indeed have sources inside Warner Brothers that are knowledgeable about this, that have said, yes, we do know that this is happening. And it's very likely that Deadline has their sources inside Warner Brothers that may not be privy to it yet. Or maybe the Hollywood Reporter is right and Deadline is just plain wrong. Or maybe Deadline is right and the Hollywood Reporter is just plain wrong. It's semantics at this point, because we all know they're going to do another one. I mean, once this thing crossed $1 billion, I still don't think they should. It's going to make money. I just think it's an unfortunate thing. I just think philosophically it's going to do so. I don't know, Rob, you're hearing this. What do you make of it?
Well, it smacks to me of a negotiating tactic. Like, the problem with all of Hollywood news is it's almost like a game of telephone. One person tells something else, and there's a lot of business as usual that the outside world doesn't understand. So we take something one way. It sounds to me like someone's agent could have leaked this information, or their management, or maybe their lawyer had a conversation with somebody, whereas the studio didn't want this information out now. And so maybe somebody from the studio called Mike Fleming up and said, yo, dude, we got to do some damage control here. We're in the middle of tense negotiations. Todd Phillips has us over a barrel. His agent wants another $50 million. So could you sort of discount this story until there's an actual deal in place? There's a lot of that goes on too, because having two stories like this is unusual.
Yeah, it is. It is unusual. So we'll see how this all kind of washes out. But I wanted to know how you guys felt about this story, and I made that the topic of today's question of the day. And the topic I simply put to you guys, I put this up on Twitter just before the show started. I asked you guys, crossing $1 billion made it inevitable, but now the Hollywood Reporter says it seems official that Joker 2 is going to happen, despite what Deadline is saying. Do you think it's a good idea to do it? It's just simple. Do you think it's a good idea to do a Joker movie? Not do you think it'll make money? Not did you like the first Joker movie? Do you think it's a good idea to do another Joker movie? To my shock and surprise, we've got a little over 2,000 of you guys have already voted on this. To my shock and surprise, because I thought yes would vastly outnumber the no's. I really, despite the fact that I'm a no vote myself, I thought yes would vastly outnumber the no's. But as of right now, 63% of you are saying no, it's a bad idea to do this. 37% of you, that's still a significant number, are saying, yes, it is a good idea to do it. So I'm going to leave the question with you guys. How do you guys think about this notion of them doing another Joker movie? Yes, it's a good idea. No, it's a bad idea. I mean, I get it. I can't jump down Warner Brothers' throat for doing this, because I get it. If I'm the CEO of Warner Brothers, I'm greenlighting a Joker too, even though I philosophically think it's a bad idea. It's just, you're in the business of making money.
Right.
So, I mean,
it's your job.
I get it. I just don't like it. But what do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts.